Howdy everyone, I'm Biscuit, and today I want to talk about water, and how weird it is, and how this weirdness is one of the reasons that life exists at all. And we're so used to water, and it's so prevalent on Earth, so this may come as a bit of a surprise. Kind of like Kanye West, but although we should be more aware of that one. Anyway, let's just get into it. So this first property actually enables many of the others on this list. So number one, water is highly polarized. So what that means is that water is composed of two hydrogen atoms bound to an oxygen atom, and these three end up sharing electrons. However, since the electrons originally from these hydrogen atoms are now being shared and then closer to the oxygen, this means there's a difference in charge between the two, with the two hydrogen now being positively charged and the oxygen being negatively. So the consequences of this polarization are really essentially the rest of this list.
There's a garbage truck. It is loud, it is big, it is heavy. I have to stop.
Number two, water sticks to itself, which we call cohesion, and then sticks to other things, which we call adhesion. This is why water tends to pool into little droplets. Being highly polar, water molecules are able to attract each other quite strongly. This gives water such a great surface tension, is why some bugs can just glide along its surface. Also, water sticking to other things well is one of the reasons why trees are able to get water all the way up and down their roots to hundreds of feet in the air using something called capillary action. This is where if you put water into smaller and smaller tubes, its own attractive forces are able to overcome gravity and it's able to climb higher and higher. So basically trees use incredibly small tubes to siphon up water, primarily through xylem and then secondarily through something called phloem. Can you hear the garbage truck? Is that loud enough? Number three, water is good at dissolving other things, especially other things like salt that are made out of ions, or ions are just charged atoms. Water is good at dissolving because its attraction is stronger than the bonds between molecules and some of the bonds within those molecules, like with salt, and therefore it's able to rip them apart. This is how you dissolve a solid, by breaking apart its crystalline structure into smaller chunks that can move around with another liquid. And because water is so good at dissolving, we have a great transport system in our bodies that brings the nutrients and gets rid of waste, which is just our blood vessels. Water is a big component in blood, and so dissolves many of these products to move around more easily. And the cytoplasm in each of the cells of our body is made out of a salt-water combination as well. And this ratio of salt water regulates whether water enters or leaves cells. This is why your sweat is very salty. Water tends to follow higher concentrations of salt. And so basically your body wants to put a bunch of water on your skin so it can evaporate, so it needs to put salt there too for it to follow. And the reason why sweating is such a great way to get rid of heat turns out to be the next property. Can you hear that? Number four, water has a high heat capacity. That means it takes more energy to increase the temperature of water compared to other things. This is nice because just like it's difficult to stop a big heavy truck moving towards you, it's also difficult to change the temperature of water. This means that water near coasts will moderate the temperature there as it won't change as easily as on the land, leading to a perpetual wind on the shorelines due to a big temperature difference, especially at night and during the daytime. I mean, it takes months for the fresh water in the Great Lakes to freeze at all. Meanwhile, the ground 50 feet away from there, from the shore, has been frozen for the entire time. Having a high heat capacity is also great for living creatures, as it's more difficult to get too hot or too cold with all the thermal inertia of just being made mostly of water gives you. Considering how narrow the temperatures required for metabolic processes are to happen, this is a huge factor for how life exists in such varying climates and environments, and how humans are able to survive in extremely cold environments like Antarctica and pretty warm environments like a tropical rainforest. Also, water takes a lot of energy to evaporate, so sweating is an efficient means of getting rid of heat in your body since it removes so much heat at one time. It's like if someone's getting killed. Lastly, and arguably the strangest and one of the most important properties, water is less dense as a solid than as a liquid. And this is so weird, since everything else in nature is more dense as a solid than a liquid. I actually don't know if there's any other substances like this, so if you know of any of them, just let me know in the comments below. But this effectively means that frozen water, ice, floats in liquid water. This is incredibly important for water-dwelling life, as this prevents lakes from freezing from the bottom up during winter, freezing all the way through and essentially killing anything in it. Instead, water freezes top down and effectively insulates the lake lower down. It doesn't usually freeze all the way through. Oceans would look way different, with ice coating the lower parts of the sea, although maybe not freezing all the way up and down. But regardless, this would have made life forming in the oceans nearly impossible without as much free-flowing liquid water, allowing small creatures to thrive and form ecosystems. So water is a weird thing, but through its weirdness, it's been able to help give life, like me, through all its weird properties. Hopefully, you have a better appreciation the next time you pour yourself a glass, and because it turns out you're more of it than anything else. Okay, thanks everyone so much for watching. Take care. Okay, bye. Looking onto the buff bras on my shirt. Look at that. Face detection, next level.